and investing into the future of our sport. I mean, I know we always compare ourselves to America, but America builds for the future. Australia builds for yesterday. We build tunnels and create 2-lane highways. America builds 10-lane highways because they know they're going to have people who are going to utilise these pathways.
100%. It shouldn't have taken all this time and effort and a World Cup to invest $200 million into women's sports. Just simply should not have happened this way. It shouldn't. So from my perspective, this then makes me question the intentions of this funding. What's it for, right? Is it truly about the women's game, or is it political activism, right? Because at the end of the day, if you really cared about women's sports, right, this would have been done years ago. And don't give me the crap of Labor, Liberal, whatever. If you care about women's sports, the funding would have been there years ago. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
At the moment, we're just seeing politics and sports become one, literally. Sports is being used as a mechanism for these politicians to brown nose in front of the Australian people, which is disappointing in my opinion.
Yeah. The other thing is, by extension of what you've just said, I noticed on stage for the finale for Spain v England, why was our Governor General up on stage next to the Prime Minister? What the hell has he got to do with giving out medals and participation medals to the umpires in both teams?
Nobody even knows who the hell he is. That's the truth.
No, but my point being is, why was he up there? I can understand Prime Minister Albanese being on stage to congratulate all the participants and the winning team because it's in his country. But why was the Governor General up on stage?
No clue, to be honest. I don't think I've seen that happen before.
Well, it doesn't make sense. I think it was stupidity.
Yeah.
Now, take us through some of the numbers from the final, from the Australian v England game.
The broadcast numbers were pretty. If you talk about Australia v England, they were record-breaking numbers in this country. The total reach was 11.15 million. The average audience was 7.13 million. They're huge numbers, right?
They're
huge.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, huge numbers. Now,
if we take the average audience at 7.13 million, that is just under a third of the entire nation tuning into the game.
Exactly. And that's almost half the nation tuning into the game, or the total reach. If we go into this whole media issue that happened pre the World Cup, and we go into who actually owned the rights to the World Cup, which I'll let you sort of pretty much elaborate on. In my opinion, this was a total disaster.
Well, specify what you mean by that.
Optus Sport bought the rights to the Women's World Cup, sold it to Channel 7, right? Channel 7 reaped the rewards of it. And then the sole media provider of Australian football, of the A-League, Channel 10, didn't even bid or why wouldn't you win these rights?
Well, look, if we take the media coverage in the wake of last week's final, what they're saying is I think 10 may have participated in the bid, but 7 thought it best to buy the rights to the Women's World Cup for a little under $5 million and have reaped amazing benefits. This could turn into a $50 to $100 million windfall for the 7 network. I can't work out why 10, who pays, I think it's around $40 to $50 million per annum over a 4-year deal, which would equate to a $200 million deal over four and a bit years, for 10 and Paramount, their American owner, not to invest in the women's game when they have spent so much money on the men's local league in Australia. It doesn't make sense. It's bad business, and they should have been able to forecast the success of the Women's World Cup in their home country.
100%. It would have made up for their losses.
Of course.
From last year's A-League absolute what's it called? Stuff up.
Yeah.
Look, if we look at the current media landscape in this country, Channel 7, Channel 9, powerhouses. Fox, he's got all the cable networks, so on and so on. The issue is the commitment across the board isn't there. If you look at Channel 7, they bought it from Optus Sport. How much did Optus Sport pay for the rights?
I think around 15 million.
15 million. Okay. Channel 7 paid 5 million, right?
Yeah, just under.
All right. They got the highest return on investment probably in
Almost
the history.
history.
Yeah, history, this probably of our country's media landscape. Now, Channel 10, you lost the initial bid, right? Why wouldn't you go back and try and get it how 7 got it? Come through an alternative channel and win. Like the point is that you have to be all in on this because you've already committed to the sport.
Correct. Look, we've got to take our hats off to the 7 Network and its CEO, James Warburton, to have the foresight.
What a master move.
Master move. I'm surprised more hasn't been made of his decision to do this. I mean, yes, we speak about the 7 Network as a whole, and it's led by its billionaire owner and major shareholder, Kerry Stokes. But what Warburton has done is nothing short of brilliance. Look, to not taking away from the broadcast itself, look, I was critical of Optus Vision by the way of its commentators. I think David Bashir and his female special comments person really, really lacked. I mean, yes, he had a tough job. He did all of Australia's games and he did the final for Optus Vision. But where was the excitement in his voice? In terms of when, and yes, I think the Sam Kerr goal, it was done justice, but the rest of the attempts and some of the goals, I wanted some excitement through the TV screen and it was just lacking.
Mate, you got that many Australian legends sitting out at the moment. I mean, why wouldn't you pick up the phone and bring him in specifically for the bloody World Cup? It's honestly, it's run like a small milk bar, really. It's just a farce.
Exactly.
And the creativity, they have as much creativity as who's the most, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, look, and I was disappointed with Optus Vision in terms of on Sunday night's final between England and Spain, they missed the coin toss. They didn't. Some of the camera angles were really quite wide, so that you couldn't see the players well enough. And yes, they might talk around and defend their position and say, "Well, we had limited resources, and they were."
Of course, they're going to do that. Of course, they're going to defend their position.
Yeah,
but you got to understand something. Optus has only been a means of bringing another product into Australia. They haven't been the guys on the ground, right? They've done TV shows, but I don't think they've done any actual Premier League games, right? They've just pretty much plugged in a cable from the Premier League media office.
Yeah. So who was doing the broadcasting of the Women's World Cup in Australia?
From my understanding, it was them. They were doing everything. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That I don't think they did a great job of selling the game.
Well, you see, this is the difference between when we talk about Australia and the States. I'll give you an example, right? Amazon won the bidding rights to host Thursday Night Football in America. Thursday Night Football averages 11 million, 12 million people tuning in. What they did was, their first year, they have a streaming platform, Amazon Prime, so on. They've got endless resources. Amazon, they're worth trillions of dollars.
Yep.
You know what they did? They white labeled the NBC broadcast stream, all right? And they fed it through to Amazon. So they brought in NBC because NBC is more experienced when it comes to streaming. Now, our friends that are at Optus never thought to do that. I mean, it's clear as daylight. You've never done it before.
So are you saying, by what Amazon did with NBC, that Optus Vision should have done that with Channel 7?
Exactly. So why wouldn't you bring in Channel 7 saying, hey, here's a bit more money, right? You guys do all the heavy lifting on the ground. Your cameras, your broadcast team, leave the broadcast team, but all the technology, the stack on the back end, we use yours, and we'll feed it into Optus, and we'll feed it into Channel 7.
Well,
does that make too much sense?
Well, maybe it does, but the other part of this situation that you've just brought up, maybe that Optus Vision wants to be considered one of the big boys and thought that they could do it. Now,
well, you start at a local game. You don't start the World Cup.
No, I know, but maybe they thought that they were capable and competent. And look, they did a reasonable job. But if you're going to be doing the numbers that they were doing and using the 7 network to piggyback on the broadcast, to broadcast it around the rest of the country and the world, well, I think they should have been better. The commentary was a little bit lackluster. The special comments person, I thought, was reading a book. And some of the inability to broadcast simple things, as I've said, like the coin toss and replay certain key incidents from certain games, just wasn't there.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. It's bloody ridiculous. But anyway.
Look, I know you didn't see the game, but did you see the pre-game entertainment?
No.
I thought FIFA did an exceptional job. I thought the ability to put together people on the ground in Sydney and their choreography was fantastic. I was a little bit dubious about some of the costumes that the female dancers were wearing. I thought it might have been a little bit towards the female anatomy side of a colour scheme, which is a topic for another day. But outside of that, I thought the graphics they used, they used young girls kicking soccer balls around on little Lego type blocks, which were part of the graphics. And then we had Melbourne-born Tones and I, who sang, I think, 3 songs. And I thought, for the most part, it was actually pretty good.
Inspiring stuff.
Oh, I feel it in your voice.
All right, we'll move on to we'll stay around the women's football and the Women's World Cup, but we'll move on to the pay disparity that's been spoken about as of recent. All right, let's get something straight. The Women's World Cup is an amazing event. It's a great event. It's an event that needs to happen, and an event that needs to be respected by more females and males. Right? So I'm all for enabling and giving them the resources that they need to better the competition year on year. But we can't get ahead of ourselves. So this is just one of the things that I need to hit home, because we really cannot get ahead of ourselves. Because if we're going to look at numbers, right? Do you know how much the Men's World Cup generated at the end of 2022?
I have
8 months ago. Huh?
I have a feeling you're going to inform us.
Yeah. $6 billion in revenue.
Oh, that is enormous.
Yeah, $6 billion in revenue, the Men's World Cup. Do you know how much the record-breaking Women's World Cup in Australia generated in revenue? Record-breaking. It broke every record that it's ever had. $570 million US. Right?
Yep.
Not 10 times, probably about 11 times, close to 12 times the amount of revenue. So, what are you talking about? Where's pay equality in what? For what? What do you want pay equality for? For what? Where?
So just explain the pay parity, which is now going to come in.
The men drew from a pool of four.
Just explain to the viewers and the listeners, which men. Just break it down for us.
So what I'm saying is this: the Men's World Cup, right?
Yeah, that was in Qatar.
That was in Qatar in December 2022. The one that the Australians sent their little political message through the Australian team and had their hissy hoo-ha and made it like Australia is a state of that that's never done anything wrong in its life, and it's the perfect country, the perfect government, perfect everything.
Yeah.
That tournament there, were the ones that the academy that the Qataris gave to the Australians because of Tim Cahill, they gave them a home that we still don't even have in their own country in Australia, right? This is the government that they're criticizing, generated $6 billion in revenue, right?
Yep.
That includes sponsorships, broadcasting rights, merchandise, everything. The Women's World Cup generated $570 million. Again, sponsorship, broadcasting, merchandise, everything, right? And that happened in Australia and New Zealand, between two countries. Now, after that's happened, after the World Cup has finished, obviously it's a hot conversation. They've come out and they said now that there needs to be equal pay between the men and the women. Gianni Infantino, or Infantino, whatever his name is, the FIFA president, said, hang on a second, there's a bit more that needs to be done before we even have this conversation. He said, you have to convince us with the dollar value that you attract. For God's sake, they were threatening blackouts in Europe before the World Cup because many others weren't prepared to pay for it because of the time disparity, right? There's no problem with that when it comes to the men's game anywhere in the world. They pay. Don't worry about that. So, moral of the story is you can't be expecting the same pay as the men if you're not generating the same revenue. This culture of participation awards, feeling sorry for one side and giving them because they are whatever they are, it's got to go, mate. This produces nothing but destruction. It is a method, a path to destruction.
Yeah, it's funny because somebody actually wrote on social media the other day, and the person's name escapes me, but did say, why are the Matildas suddenly beyond reproach? Are we not allowed to criticise them because they're female?
Exactly.
It's people who are criticised have done something right, not something wrong. Why? If these girls are going to finish fourth in a World Cup and start to be considered as equals to men, well, they've got to be open to criticism, because if we're not going to criticise them, they'll be treated like babies.
Exactly, because the men get slaughtered.
You say slaughtered or extorted?
They get slaughtered with their criticism. So this is what we're talking about, right? We have an issue with the politics that's being pushed through sport now, and it really is being pushed all around the world, not just here. For example, the American soccer teams, the men generate 10 times, 20 times more than the females, and now they get half. Why? For what reason?
Yeah, look, I think it's a long play. I don't want to go into that today. It's probably too political, but I'm sure over the coming episodes of Raw Sports, you and I will dissect why.
Well, that's rare coming from you.
Oh, yes. Why is that?
You don't mind a political conversation here and there.
Look, I do like political
Anyway,